Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to the Morning Mindset. Well, it's morning for me anyway, as I am recording this, but it may not actually be morning as a time of day for you. It may be the beginning of your day if you work a swing shift, which is some other time in the day, like evening. But whenever you listen to this, it is my hope that the Morning Mindset is able to help you set your mind on the truth of God so that you are able, listen to that, so you are able to live in a way that brings glory to Jesus Christ. Do you believe that's possible? Do you believe that you can live a life that brings honor and glory to Jesus Christ? My friends, it is possible. In fact, it's not only possible, it is what God desires for you. And it all begins with humility. You may not have ever thought of it that way, but humility, that quality that shows us how incredibly awesome God is in light of how impotent we are compared to Him. That quality is what brings us to a place where we're able to actually live out the power and strength of God in our lives. Our author, Andrew Murray, who's been guiding us through his book, Humility, that's what we've been studying most recently, is addressing in this chapter, chapter 9 of his book, humility and faith. And he starts out with a little word picture that I think is very helpful. He says, speaking of the blessings of the Christian life, it's often like the objects exposed in a shop window. You can see them clearly, and yet cannot reach them. If you were told to stretch out your hand and take, you might answer, I cannot. There's a thick pane of plate glass between me and those things. He says, even so, Christians may see clearly the blessed promises of perfect peace and rest, of overflowing love and joy, of abiding communion and fruitfulness, and yet feel that there's something between that's hindering them from truly possessing those things. What might that be? Nothing but pride. The promises made to us through faith are so free and sure. The invitations and encouragements are so strong. The mighty power of God on which we may count is so near and free. It can only be something that hinders our faith, that hinders the blessing being ours. He goes on and he says, faith and humility are at their very root one. And we can never have more of true faith than we have of true humility. And I think it's important that we pause to consider this. We pause to put on our thinking caps, as my mother used to say, and think this one through. You see, faith and humility really are one because we cannot have faith without humility. Because it is humility that points out to us how desperately in need of God we are. It's that way when we first become believers in Jesus Christ. We see our sin and we see our need of forgiveness. And we see our lack of ability in conquering that sin. And we turn to Jesus Christ in faith and we accept the sacrifice He made on the cross on our behalf. We place our faith in it. Isn't that how we speak about it? That's what's happening. And it's humility that makes it possible because the perspective of humility enables us to see rightly. Well, in the Christian life, it is the same thing because faith is really the very same thing from the moment we get saved all the way to the moment that we die and go to heaven. Faith is believing that what God says to us is true. And what He says to us about the Christian life is that the only way we can live it is by His power, is by relying on Him to live through us. That's Galatians 2, verse number 20. I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And here's the key. The life I now live in the flesh, in this mortal body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave Himself for me. You see, my friends, humility and faith are the same thing. And if we are to live a life of faith in God, it has to be a humble life. Let's remain dependent on Him today. You can do it. You can live the life you should through humility. Join me again tomorrow.